if you have millions of quality followers, then you can monetize it. Maybe my definition of monetization is a little bit different. My income's significantly higher. So I could make 1,000 here and 1,000 there. That doesn't really turn the needle for me. So, what's it going to cost for you to build this following? How good of a following? I mean, I've had people that have offered to grow my Instagram 1 million. With who? What promotions are they going to use? I mean, what followers am I going to have? I mean, my Instagram account is private and I have 200 and some thousand followers and I'm verified, but my followers only ask me business questions. It's not diluted with nonsense.
Welcome to the Viral by Design podcast with Dave Rotherow, where we get inside the minds of today's leading viral marketers as they reveal the exact strategies they use to build brands, products, and campaigns that are magnetic to customers, spread like wildfire, and seize the attention of millions. This is Viral by Design.
So welcome to another episode of Viral by Design. I'm very excited today to be joined by Sean Castrina. Sean has started more than 20 companies over the last 20 years and still seeks to launch a new business venture every single year. He's an investor, a teacher, a highly sought after speaker who's known for his humor and bluntness that engages and captures his audience. He's the author of 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success, The Greatest Entrepreneur in the World, and World's Greatest Business Plan. Sean's contributed to some of the most recognized media outlets, including Forbes, Yahoo Finance, MSNBC, and has also guest lectured at some of America's finest colleges. So, Sean, thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be on the podcast.
So, one thing that really struck me there was, in your background is that you've started over 20 years, you've started 20 businesses. So, by my rudimentary math, that's a business a year.
And that's always the goal. The goal is always to add a profit stream, which I view as a company, because it'll either be the way I do everything. I always when I do a venture, I make sure it has its own checking account, its own line item, even if it's a division within a company. That way it's accountable for its results and it doesn't get inflated based on the success of things around it. So that's one of my secrets.
Got it. And, it's interesting because the reason that really drew my attention is what I consider to be one of the kind of things that slowed me down early on was trying to start too many businesses. Now, all of these businesses were kind of in different sectors and it was kind of like a kid in a candy shop starting out. But is that something that you recommend, like setting up multiple streams of income as fast as possible?
I think you first plant a money tree, and that typically takes about 3 to 5 years. So I think at first you got to set up something that's durable, sustainable, and will give you a livable wage. Yep. Because until you have that, you're never going to be secure in what you're doing, and you're never going to really feel like you had succeeded at it anyway. So the first thing is plant a tree that grows fruit, and that means it's generating revenue, can provide, pay your basic living expenses, things of that nature. That's priority number 1. Then number 2 is I think you want to create companies that have synergy with your existing company, assuming that's your go-to business, the one you're excited about. Example would be like Microsoft with Bill Gates. They've purchased, over 100 companies since he founded it. They're an extremely entrepreneurial company. Now, of Microsoft, but they buy up companies like Pac-Man. And so does Google. And so, so I think you got to create the one machine that's going to create, that gives you the confidence, gives you the, pays your bills, gives you some security. And then once you have that in place, look at what worked within it, rinse and repeat what you did, and then, try to get something that has synergy with it.
Yeah, got it. No, it makes a lot of sense. So where do you think people should start out? Particularly right now, at this point in history, there's massive fluctuation going on. I'm sure, as things get back on track is going to expand and become even more crazy. So obviously that's a time when opportunities show themselves, and obviously that's a time when fortunes are made. But where would you recommend that people concentrate their efforts if they were just starting out right now?
Yeah, I think that I find that ideas always fall in 4 categories. For good or bad, they fall into the 80% of all business ideas come out of these 4 categories. Number 1, it'll be a problem you see or solve. It's just a problem you constantly notice. Okay, so look for problems that aren't being solved or could be solved in a better way. Number 2 is look for a need that's not being met. Grubhub would be an example, or DoorDash here in America, where, okay, yeah, some restaurants delivered, some didn't. But what if every restaurant could deliver? That's a win all the way around. Restaurants love it. Consumers love it. It's a win. So that was a massive market, massive problem, massive money, a lot of money to be made. So solving, fill a need. Next, satisfy a desire. This is the next level. This is like a sandals vacation as opposed to, a regular vacation. This is the next tier. This is the BMW. This is the, the Mercedes. So you got transportation, and then you got something that satisfies, I want this. It's ego. It's the next tier up. They're typically your ideas there. And then fourth, anything that entertains. Anytime you can get people to watch something, stay somewhere, view something, anytime you can get a crowd, there's potential, for money to be made.
That's interesting, because, attention is this currency, which I think a lot of people really kind of underestimate. And, there's so many people out there on social media saying grow a following, showing people how to grow a following. But I think there's a big disconnect between people who've grown these followings and then how do they actually monetize that?
They can't. And let me break everybody's solution. Listen, if you got the solution to this, here, I'm going to give you my personal email address. This isn't even online. I'm going to play you out right now and show you can't do it. scastrina317@gmail.com. There's less than 50 people on the planet that have that email. And I'll call you out right now. You can grow it. You can grow a following. All you people that have monetized it, show me how you've taken point blank, player A. You show me a Stripe account where he made $1 million, and I'll hire you tomorrow. I'll give you 50% of everything you make. So I'll give you the biggest royalty deal in the history of royalties, because I know I have a better chance of bumping into a one-eyed leprechaun today than you emailing me.
So why do you say that then? Why do you think it's not possible?
It's beyond hard. It's beyond hard. See, the problem is that to monetize a platform, you have to bring value to somebody. So the question is that I have a hard time people under the age of 25 telling me what they're going to teach me. To be frank with you, it's not that they don't know something necessarily, but they don't know what they don't know. And that's what scares the hell out of me. Yeah. They haven't seen the ups and the downs in the market and been through transitions in industries and things of that nature. So they got the hottest thing that's working, but you got to know what doesn't work. Is just knowing what doesn't work is every bit as important as knowing what does work. So my thing within the space, again, if you have millions of quality followers, then you can monetize it. Maybe my definition of monetization is a little bit different. My income's significantly higher. So I could make 1,000 here and 1,000 there. That doesn't really turn the needle for me. So, what's it going to cost for you to build this following? How good of a following? I mean, I've had people that have offered to grow my Instagram 1 million. With who? What promotions are they going to use? I mean, what followers am I going to have? I mean, my Instagram account is private and I have 200 and some thousand followers and I'm verified, but my followers only ask me business questions. It's not diluted with nonsense.
Yeah.
So I'm a little leery. I just say you got to make money. You got to have a great following. You got to bring something very valuable to the table, and it's got to be sustainable because they'll figure you out and cancel everything they bought with you.
Yeah.
So, that's why I think it's a little harder than I have found it to be one of the harder things in business, and most things in business have come fairly easy to me. I'm like the student in class who gets most of the questions right within business. I can move the pieces on the board, but monetizing a platform is definitely, to me, it's equal to being a brain surgeon.
Yeah. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. And I think, to pardon my French, I think a lot of what happens in terms of growing channels on platforms like Instagram and TikTok, can be a bit of a circle jerk from what I've seen, in terms of people offering to grow your following so that you can grow your following, so you can teach people to grow your following, like so much of the internet marketing world is, right? Everything
is teaching you how to do what I did. And this is my problem. If I only make money from what I taught you that I did, I get leery because it is that circle. It's a never ending circle. I'm going to teach you what I did. I wouldn't teach anyone directly in my area what I do for a living because I don't want that much competition. So I'm always a little leery when I'm going to teach you exactly what I did so I can have 1 million more competitors in what I do. Now, I understand abundance mentality, but that's stupidity. I mean, if it really works that good, why aren't you just doing it yourself? Why aren't you growing that business? Why are you going to teach 1,000 people to do it, make 1,000? Example, when Bill Gates created Windows, he didn't offer a course to teach everybody how to do Windows. No, he held that technology like oxygen. When the guy who came up with the formula for Coca-Cola, he didn't go, let me show 20 people how to build soft drink company. You don't do that. You just don't do that. So I'm always a little leery of, I made $1 million on this exact way. I'm going to show you A, B, C, and D, every way I did it. I just get a little cautious because typically I would like to make the first 100 million with that idea.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. So where should people start then? If people, there's a vast array of genuine opportunity out there, right? Yeah. So regards to what you teach, obviously you've already mentioned about solving a problem, finding a solution to a real problem that people have. And obviously, something that you would have to have really mastered over the last 20 years, being able to set up so many different businesses and have them running without you is systems and processes, etc.
Fanatic about systems. I mean, the key is this, and I want to say that I've bought 3 courses that work great for me. I just want to say this. I have nothing against courses. I just buy courses from people who have done it at such a level consistently. I bought a course 1991 on how to buy property with no money down. I've turned it into over $10 million in real estate deals. The guy had been doing it for 30 years, worked on the White House committee on something with real estate, super credible. Was in his 60s when he did it. I bought a Tony Robbins course on motivation. Now, again, teaching a skill is different than teaching a business. In other words, you don't hurt Tony's bottom line if he motivates you and gets you excited. That fits within what he does. Nothing against it, but it doesn't affect his bottom line. It builds it. And the third course I bought was a guy taught how to publish and write and publish a book. Well, there's going to be 1 billion books out there. That's not competition to him. So I teach you how to partner in business, but I don't bring you to my city, show you exactly what I've done so you can be my competitor. That's where I just want to kind of explain that a little bit out. I mean, learning a skill online, I think, is great. And there's a lot of people that do it really well. I just think you better find somebody who has been doing this for a really long time and they genuinely have a reason for you to succeed. So I apologize. That was rattling around in my head and I just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's great advice. And, I think so many people become kind of like course collectors, right? So they go out and they buy a course, they buy a book, they buy this and that, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think I don't know if there's necessarily studies out there, but there's definitely data out there to show that something like 80% of people don't even launch the course, right?
Yeah. See, I mean, I'm just buy one that really fits something that you think will work, consume it, watch it 3 times. I mean, I ate and drank that real estate course. I ate and drank those Tony Robbins cassettes. But again, so over almost 30 years, I've bought 3 courses. So on average, 1 a decade. Yep. All 3 have paid off literally 1 million times over for me. Yep. So I think they're good, but just don't be exactly. Typically, your problem is not information. Your problem is execution. You got tons of information. You probably have too much information. Your biggest problem is execution on what you already know.
100%. So that kind of touches on my next question. 20 years in business, you've obviously seen a lot. You've seen people come, go, and everything in between. So what would you say separates the people who are really exponentially successful and the ones that fail?
It's just funny. I'm working on a lesson right now for my podcast. This is what I find to get the odds in your favor. Like when you play poker, you can't guarantee you're going to win a hand, but all you're trying to do is get the odds in your favor. And when you see the top cards, you kind of know whether the odds are in your favor. No guarantee, but there's a mathematical, that things are in your favor. That's all you're trying to do in business. In business, you're trying to get the odds in your favor. There's a 50% chance it'll fail in the first 2 to 3 years statistically. There's a statistical chance that you'll be out of business by the 10-year mark 9 out of 10 times. So obviously the odds are difficult. I think it's this way. Number one is it starts with the right person. Listen, you can give a great idea to an idiot and an idiot's still an idiot. I can give a great idea to somebody who's lazy and procrastinates, and they're still going to be lazy and procrastinate. I can give a great idea, a perfect business plan to somebody who doesn't take action, who just is unfocused. They're excited this month. Next month, they're excited about something else. You got to have the qualities of a successful person. If you have that, you will have a company in the next 5 years. Because even if the first one fails, you're going to learn something from it. You're going to learn, okay, I do it this way, and you're going to be fine. So number one is you got to be right. Number two is your idea has to be good. The marketplace rejects bad ideas. The marketplace rejects ideas that aren't better than your existing competition. So you got to have an idea that is really lined up to be profitable. And that's why you do a business plan, because you kind of vet it. And number three is you got to have a team or you have to be the right person in place to execute on the strategy. So, you got to be right. You got to vet the idea. You got to have a strategy, and then you got to be able to execute on that strategy. I mean, they're the four components of launching a business, period.
Something you just said, I said a second ago, really caught my ear, and it reminded me of something which I learned from Tony Robbins, funny enough, not so long ago, which was this quality of absolute certainty, or this perception of absolute certainty that something would work out. And will it mean that it'll absolutely work out? No way, but it'll make it way, way, way more likely, right? And I think that's kind of like, so go on.
Yeah, it's the law of attraction. You tend to get what you expect. And I would rather have 80% go my way, and I'll figure out how to solve the 20% that shocked me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a law, what he's talking about is like the law of attraction. You tend to get what you expect. If you expect it to fail, it will fail. You'll deem it, you'll make it fail. And if you expect it to succeed, you're going to be shocked how you move the odds dramatically in your favor.
Yeah. And I think even in terms of like for some people who the law of attraction they can't necessarily get on board with, then even the fact that you can change the actions that you will take based on your perception that it is going to work, it's like you start to find a way, right? You start to create routes to success.
I think that successful people have an uncanny optimism. It's not that we live in a land of delusion. We actually believe we're smart enough to solve the problem if it happens. In other words, when I make a decision, this is what I tell people. I have to make a decision. That's one of the characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. They're very decisive. We make the very best decision we can based on the information we have at the time. If information changes, then we pivot. I mean, that's just how you do it. So there's no 100% certainty, but we have this is what I can tell you. Successful people have confidence. Now, if that creates certainty, I don't know what to tell you. You can tie it in yourself. But I have a genuine belief when Sean Castrina is involved in a venture, he's got a very, very, very good chance of it succeeding. And times it fails. I didn't notice something. I didn't see something necessarily. I didn't understand it the way or something changed. Okay. I learn from it, take notes. I don't make the same mistake twice, hopefully, and move on. Failure is all failure is a scar tissue of success.
100%. Great advice. That. So speaking of, you starting businesses, what are you working on right now? What are you most excited about in 2021? I'm curious to hear, with so much business experience behind you, what is it that you're seeing that other people aren't?
Yeah. Two things is that I'm always trying to develop a profit stream within my existing businesses. So you have your core business. You got to plan another branch. You already have something that's working. What are your customers asking for? What is the industry moving towards? What is another add-on sale that you can add to that? What's another service that would complement what you're already doing? How can you get your customers to spend more? So I'm always thinking of that. That's number one. So I'm always trying to build my core companies. Second, that's why I gave that challenge in the beginning, because I'm working on creating a company that can really help people monetize their platforms better, but working with like existing authors, not just fly-by-night people. I have a lot of friends that are, New York Times bestselling authors and whatever, and we all have this problem. That's why I threw out that challenge. When I talk to them, our one consistent problem with all of us is how can we better monetize our words, our books, our image, and our influence? I mean, we're already on Instagram. We're already verified. We already have big followings. We may have a pocket, all this, and we know it's hard. If you lined up 100 of us in this room, 99 of us would say, I think that was the hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah. So talking about going back to the systems and processes, then if it is so difficult to really genuinely monetize that following, we go back to what actually does work in business. Yeah. Can you give us like a rough overview of how one of your businesses work, like what you look to set in place to make it tick?
Right. Systems. Let's just talk about systems for a second. There's 3 components of every business. It doesn't matter if it's Google. It doesn't matter if it's a lemonade stand. Okay. So if you were sitting in a college class right now, this is what I would teach you. The first thing in business that you have to create a system for is you have to attract customers. Whether that's you're doing that online, however you're doing it, it's irrelevant. But you got to create something that systematically, picture a wheel, systematically catches people here and brings them around. Catches your customer, brings them around, brings them into your fold. So you have to attract that customer. However you do it. If you don't attract customers, you will be out of business. That's 100%. Number 2 is you got to sell that customer. That's why I'm bringing them around this loop here. So you attract them. You got to have a system in place to sell them. However you choose to do that. That can be one-on-one. That could be through a click funnel. That could be through a sales team. That could be just through your website. It is irrelevant. But these are 2 fundamentals I've already given to you. These are inarguable. Inarguable. Facebook, same thing. They attracted people, but they couldn't make any money with it until Sandberg came on board and monetized it. Okay, she showed them how to make money with it, and that's why she has, $1 billion worth of, stock in the company. Okay, so you got to sell people, and then the third thing is you have to fulfill whatever it is you are offering your customer. If it's a service, you got to fulfill it. You got to do it. You got to do it as good as you said or better. If you're selling a product, you got to deliver it. You got to deliver it in time and the time that you said it would take. Your fulfillment. You have to fulfill the service end of it. If there's a warranty or whatever, you got to fulfill it. That's business. 3 components. Every business has this. You have to attract customers. You have to sell customers, monetize. You got to make money off of this customer. If not, you're out of business. And number 3 is you got to fulfill You got to fulfill whatever it is you promise them all the way through the customer service end of it. Fulfillment. So again, attract, sell, fulfill.
Got it. Such simple and yet such solid advice, right? If more young people who are starting out in businesses really just understood and internalized these principles, the kids who are on Instagram and they're being told, get a million followers and suddenly checks will start appearing in the mail. If people really just internalize these simple ideas and start to get people around them that were as passionate with them as them about what they were working on, it'd be 1,000 times easier for them, right?
The example of this is that soccer is a global game. I played soccer. I don't care how good you are at soccer. There's a couple fundamentals that you have to be able to do in soccer. You got to dribble that ball. You got to be able to head the ball, or you got to hide from people when it comes. And you got to be able to throw in the balls in general. They're 3 fun. Everything in life has fundamentals. And so does business.
Yeah.
So does business. So you can, I've just learned money has fundamentals.
So in terms of what you're teaching us now, this is amazing advice, like really, really kind of guts of business advice. How do you kind of work with people? Is it just through your books or do you have programs? Do you coach people?
Yeah. What we do is that, I coach people when they reach out to me, and, obviously I'm not cheap, and we're working on a course. I'm working on the reason why I have never quit a job to start a business. I've never put up more than $10,000 of capital. And now that I think about it, and I've never had that crazy big idea. Like I've done everything part-time with very little capital, and I have no experience in any of my businesses. None, 0. I've partnered in all my companies. That's my superpower.
Right.
You look at all the greatest companies. Elon Musk with PayPal, he partnered. Google was a partnership. Bill Gates was a partnership. Warren Buffett has a partner. He's 96 years old. I can go one after the Uber partnership, Google partnership. Mark Zuckerberg had partners when he got off the ground. Okay. You can go on and on. 9 out of 10 great companies. Steve Jobs partnership. I can go Walt Disney partner. I can go endlessly through this little maze here. So that's my secret. I try to teach startup founders the 1 + 1 = done principle. You plus what? One thing. And you may partner with them. They may be a top level employee like Sandberg was with Microsoft, with Facebook. How you get that person is irrelevant to me. But what I have found is most startups lack that one critical hire and or partner to get it done. I just tell people, what's the one thing? The one thing, if you had it, your company could be launched, it could grow, it could go to the next level. What is that one thing? And rarely is there not that one missing component that holds people back. So they try to do everything themselves. That delays the launch. It technically fails. It's hard to be a lone ranger. And again, if you want to be a solopreneur, in the sad part, like in America, there's 28 million small businesses, and I think 24 million of them are one person or less. I guess they can't be less than one person in any business, but 24 million of them are one person. That's not an entrepreneur. You created a job. That's the only thing you did, which is fine. I'm happy for you, but I don't define you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. You created a job for yourself and you worked twice as long for half.
You created some scheduling flexibility, and that's great. Nothing wrong with it. But entrepreneurs are like addicts. We're always looking for something new, And we don't like to work because we're in it and we're moving on to the next thing. We don't try to get consumed in that one thing. We're always building it a little bit bigger. We want to get people to do the things we don't like to do so we can, get moving on the stuff that we're fascinated by.
Yeah. Goes back to the systems, right? Here's an interesting thing I didn't know. I learned the other day actually was that Elon Musk didn't actually start Tesla. Talking of partnership, there was actually two guys who started the business, and he came in as a partner, and then they left. I don't know exactly why. Nobody seems to know exactly why.
I got to look that up because I'm actually writing my book on partnership right now. Do you know who those two people were?
I can't remember, but I can certainly email it over to you.
Email that over to me.
Yeah,
because I'm actually working on a book right now, and I'm pulling out partnerships that you never. Would blow you away. The fact that you always hear about Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
But no, I could interview 1,000 people that wouldn't know that he has a partner named Charlie Munger.
And I would be one of them.
Yeah. Nobody knows it. He's the front person. And there's so many incredible partners. You look at UFC. Dana White, he was a manager of two fighters, and then he creates a deal to buy the UFC for $2 million, goes back to his high school friend who, is running casinos. He and his older brother put up $2 million. Okay, that sells for $4 billion, 3 years ago. He makes $400 million on the deal. Now he makes 9% of all profit. Partnerships are just incredible.
Yeah. So I'm looking for a partner because I've had a few interesting business partner relationships in the past. What would you recommend in looking for someone? Would it be somebody that kind of complements your skills, is very different to you, or someone has
one person that without him you can't make this thing go? Once you're over the age of 25, and I think even below the age of 25, sometimes we want to partner because somebody's your friend, and I get that. I don't recommend it. Keep friendship. You want one person that you could look back 5 years from now and say this: I could have never got this off the ground without him. I could have never scaled this business without him. We could have never grown to the size we have reached without him. If you can't answer one of those three, wrong partner. Then you got to get into, now once they've done that, then you got to qualify and make sure that they have, the integrity or the values that you'd feel comfortable with, the work ethic, and, you got to make sure there's a good yin and yang there. But the most important thing is, you're splitting profit. I want to know that I got you in here for a reason. That without it, I wouldn't be making what I always say is 0 times 0 is 0. So I don't mind splitting money. I also say 50% of a lot is better than 100% of a little. So I don't mind a partnership, and I love partnerships, but I only partner with people that can bring something to this equation that without them, I could not get it off the ground. I could not scale it, and I could not hyper grow it.
Yeah. Something you touched on there about 0% is 0 really resonates. Something which I've come to realize in recent years is that, business is not about anyone having like a bigger slice of the pie. It's about creating a bigger pie for everybody, right?
Absolutely. Listen, I've done 50-50 equity. I typically will own like 51% of the shares just so that I win coin tosses. But as a general rule, I always give 50% of the profit. It just ends arguments. To me, what's 1%? I definitely have an abundance mentality. If the business is going to be successful, money is going to be the last thing that you need to argue over.
100%.
I love it. You said it. I read that quote recently too. Just create a bigger piece of the pie.
Absolutely. 100%. Sean, absolutely incredible advice. And, anybody listening internalizes this knowledge and really, like set sail with it. It's going to set so many people in such a better direction. Where can people dig more into your work?
Great. If you like the way I talk quick on subjects and I beat down on it, I drill down on it. The 10-minute entrepreneur podcast, if anybody's listening to a podcast, you're probably listening to 6 of them. Mine's short and sweet. Either I teach you about business or I bring on a founder, and they're short and sweet. 10 minutes. Sometimes an interview might go 18 or 20, but I bring on incredible people where I ask them what's the best piece of startup advice they could give, what's the one thing they wish they would have known when they first got started. So I really get good. We don't just chat. Next is if you want a free book, I always like to give a free book away. My 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success is on my personal site, SeanCastrina.com. You can get that book for free, and it was a bestseller. It's got tons of New York Times author, positive endorsements on the back, education. It's one of the rare books that not only the New York Times bestselling authors say was great, but, business professors at the finest schools in the country also said it was.
That's amazing. Well, we'll make sure the links for both of those resources are around and next to the podcast, wherever it's posted. Sean, thanks again for your time and your knowledge and your wisdom. It's been absolutely incredible. Appreciate you being on.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
This has been the Viral by Design podcast with Dave Rotherow. For more viral marketing secrets and to get detailed cliff notes on all episodes, visit viralbydesign.net.